Okay, my friends, welcome back to this playthrough of the Final Fantasy X Masters mod by Karifean. Now, you might be wondering, why are you back on the Gagazet Mountain Trail? Have you not had enough punishment? Now, the answer is no, because as you would have obviously seen from the thumbnail and the build-up, we are facing Seymour Flux again today. And this one is a favour to Karifean himself because he has made some tweaks. He's actually made Seymour Flux more difficult because, as you guys saw, I made absolute mincemeat of him. It was like the easiest fight ever. And so Karifean thought, hold on, let me make this fight more difficult. And he wanted me to be a bit of a guinea pig and test out this even more difficult version of Seymour Flux. Now, sarcasm aside, if I'm being absolutely brutally honest, I think that Seymour Flux was a little bit too easy. Given the nature of the mod and the way that things should be progressing as you go, I do think I got through Seymour Flux a little bit easily. Of course, I always try to give myself at least some credit. I mean, I think I played a good game there to get through, but I have to admit that I think part of the reason was because Seymour Flux could have been made a little bit more difficult to beat. And Karifean, based on what he's observed so far, not just from me, but obviously other people who've played it, and the general feedback from the mod, he has decided to make Seymour Flux a little more difficult, and he requested that I give it another go. Now, this might take me 6 hours second time round to do it, and obviously due to the nature of how I'm uploading this, it's not really great when I have to spend that long on a boss. So since I already have a win, I'm not sure how I'm going to approach it. I want to go back in and just give it another go, but I don't think I'm willing to spend like 6 hours trying to beat it again because I already have a win, and we need to make more progress with the mod, and I'm sure there's other people that are willing to test it out and give it a go. But out of respect to the man himself, I will definitely give it another go. Give it a shot for like maybe a couple of hours, maybe 3 hours tops, depending on how long each attempt takes and how I'm doing with it. And we'll see if I manage to record a win against the kind of revamped, reloaded version of Seymour Flux. Now, to make things even worse, I haven't actually been playing the mod for about 3 months now, like over 3 months. I took a break because I'd had a lot of content built up from recording the mod, and I had a lot of other series to get to, and so I decided to kind of just take a break, and this is a great way to come back. A fight against an even more difficult Seymour Flux. That's just what I needed, but it is what it is, and I would try my best and see how we do. Now, because it has been so long since I fought it, and I haven't actually edited the episode in which I won, I don't really remember what I did. If I'm finding it really difficult, I'll have to just spend some time watching back what I did against the original one. But for now, at least, we'll just see what we can do here and see if we can win. So that's the plan. I'm going to use a lot of, I think, speed up and that kind of stuff here to kind of get through this one a bit more quickly, and we'll generally see how it all goes. So that's the plan. Okay, here we go. Seymour Flux, round 2. Karifean, I hate you just a little bit, but you've been such a great servant to the community that this episode is for you. Okay, so what I decided to do for this very first attempt is to do my best to kind of note down all of the turns and just see what's happening here, because I feel like especially the harder the battles get, as you guys know, the more and more important it becomes to keep track of what's actually going on in the fight. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to literally have my pencil and my notebook out, and I'm going to have Flux, and I'm going to have Multi, and I'm going to write down what they do every turn and who they do it to, because I feel like in terms of creating a counter strategy, I'm going to need to figure out how these guys move. I didn't need to do it as much, I think, in the first fight, but I feel like for this one it's going to be more necessary. So what I know is that this guy is susceptible to slow, so I'm going to begin with that. There he is. There's that penalty. There's that slow. Now, Titus also has slow proof, so I feel like he's going to do okay from at least the lance attack, which does afflict slow. So same here, confusion and slow proof. So basically we need to try and keep these two hasted up as much as we can, and I think that was a pretty important factor in the first battle. So that's that, but I think I'm literally gonna I'm not going to use this save file moving forward most likely. So, right, CTB Cure comes in from Morty. CTB Cure. And then Lance on Riku. So I think Riku was the one with the lowest HP, so I believe it might target the person with the lowest HP. So the only good thing about this situation is that she basically maintains her haste. But I don't have a huge amount of remedies. But we'll do what we got to do. So Riku is now back. So I think the next move is Blast Zone. So I'm going to bring out maybe someone like Lulu. Also, CTB Cure does remove slow. Yeah, that's an important note. Let's see. Let's just put a bio on there. At least it will waste a turn, perhaps, using something else. Like Asuna. So there is Blast Zone. Now this one hurts. I assume this is magic, but I don't know. It might be protect. Okay. Now what we need to do is, I know that there's going to be a Penta Blizzara coming, so I need to protect against that if I can. So I think basically for these guys I need to switch to their elemental armors from the start. I think that might be a better idea. Or there might be a secondary lance attack, which I'd need to survive. So... I'm going to throw in a power break here, I just want to see. Shit, I need to overdrive to do that, I forgot. I think a power break will be incredibly useful. So I think some of the stuff basically that we need to do to it, we can really only manage if we have the overdrives. And as of now, basically nobody has an overdrive here. So that's not great. How much CTB curing does it actually do? Is also another question. Morty is immune to slow, so we can't slow him. So, as is almost always the case, we kind of we need to get that foothold in the battle, and if we don't, then we're kind of screwed. Now, Titus has the least amount of HP. And so if he gets hit with the lance, then we'll know that it's almost certain that he goes after the one with the lowest HP. So, we'll haste up Waka here. Okay. Alright, null frost for you. Okay, so it's break. Fine. We have some immunity. Okay. So break came in from Morty. They're not. Right, one thing we're going to try. Obviously, now I think we do have Reflect for the elemental side of things, but he will heal from his Penta Blizzara, so we need to not do that. So not for this one. Let's hold off for a little longer. So let's just do this and see what happens. Another lance comes in. Okay. Alright, Speedy Riku coming in. So we're going to try and desync them again by throwing another slow here. But unfortunately, again, the overdrive modes here are not good. So I think this will be like the kind of the big research attempt, and then the next one I'm going to try to find a mode that works better. So we've had Lance, Blast Zone, Lance. I think the Elemental's got to be coming very, very soon. Yeah, Riku naturally splits them, but when she uses Use, she's a bit too fast. But yeah, she can squeeze Lulu in here, so let's try. Let's see if delay attack works. I forgot if he could be delayed or not, but he's out of range. So let's see if we can delay multi maybe. 1,200 damage on him. Fair enough. So I'm gonna hold on. No frost. So going very slowly here, just trying to hang in the fight a little bit. Trying to activate all those SOS nulls, because I do think the Pent is coming now. Yeah, there it is. Alright, so the team was ready for it. Now, if CTB Cure comes next, then it could be trouble. Let's see. Is Seymour immune to Reflect? Just trying to think, is there a way to stop CTB Cure from affecting him? Must be immune to Reflect, but let's try. Just for kicks. He's not, okay. CTB Cure bypass? Oh. Well now. That's kind of interesting. No. So my CTB got a bit cured there. Doesn't cast haste, but it does give you a little CTB action. So let's do this. Now we have to be obviously incredibly careful.
Do you not want to heal Spira's sorrow? Let death carry you off into peaceful slumber.
You can't run from your fate.
Okay. So yeah, we got to play the Reflect game very carefully here. As you guys know, it's a high risk, high reward situation. Now I think there's a Lance coming up next, so I've got to try and be ready for that. Let's see. I think we don't want any regen going on here. And yeah, we can make Auron start tanking and guarding a little bit here, as we often do. He's gonna be slowed again anyway, so it's not that big a deal to put him on haste. So I'm gonna speed up a little bit here. The Reflectors has made things a little bit interesting here. We need to see what's gonna happen now. Dispel. The Reflect has been dispelled. Fine. But with that, the poison still stays, so we're able to continue chipping with poison at least. And so now I'm expecting some kind of Lance move. To that end, we're gonna protect Auron, who's guarding up here. So there it comes. He's going after the one with the lowest HP yet again. Okay. Now. So it should be Blast Zone next, so we have to be careful here. I think Riku might be a good candidate for Blast Zone because she can heal everybody up quickly and then Blast Zone brings us back into SOS, but she'll just die straight up from the damage, so it's not good. She's a good candidate to kind of survive it. Okay, so still poisoned, still slowed. Let's try Reflect again. Not on Multi, but on him. So we're doing our best to stop Multi from manipulating the fight and getting rid of Slow, because Isuna's a spell. So in order to get rid of Slow and Poison, it has to do Dispel first and then Isuna. So it doesn't have that much opportunity. Now, did anyone have SOS Reflect? I really don't remember at this stage. Just going to keep powering Auron up here. Make those lances really obsolete. CTB Cure. This will damage... Yeah, this will damage my guard here. But again, not really a problem, because if he's mostly going to be guarding, then we can live with it. But look at what happened to him on the CTB here, because it's zombified. That hurt. But we'll see if we can manage anyway. It's not the end of the world here that that's happened to him, honestly. Let's see. Because, I mean, we can still put maybe Reflect on Auron himself and use him to bounce spells off. Like, keep him out there the entire time. And just... So, this is definitely very different to how I played it last time. And I think that's already an indicator that things are definitely a little different here. Right, so now Blast Zone's coming. We have to be careful. Just trying to get ready for that Blast Zone. And what's the best way to do it? Because obviously it does a lot of damage to me, so I need to be careful. Just worried that Riku won't survive it, and then that'll be a big waste. I think after this we should all survive. Alright, everyone's just generally reflected up here. Let's see. So we should survive Blast Zone, hopefully. But we can't control who reflected spells are going to hit. That's a bit of a problem. So yeah, here comes Blast Zone. Okay. Yeah, pretty sure it's a magic one. Break. Right, okay. So break must be coming from Multi. Interesting. Alright, let's bring in someone speedy here. Curious to see what happens to Auron now. Okay. Yeah, so now we have some more Penta action coming, which we should generally be ready for. And Orin has Reflect. I forgot if they, like, if he already bounces a spell off himself in the first place. I don't remember that part, but let's see. Yeah, they both have Reflect. We'll start doing some of this, I think, and just see what happens. Worst case, it hits multi and we get something back. Shell. There we go. Might be another Lance here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we still need to heal him up, so it feels like it's necessary. Okay. Let's keep going here. I think. 88,000. There comes that Dispel. Okay, and we're just gonna put Reflect right back on. Yep. So now it should be Elemental, and it should be Lightning. I think Orin's doing a fine job. He just needs to keep guarding here. My only thing is Blast Zone's the one that's a little bit unpredictable because I thought it was Flux doing it, but I think it's Morty. So we need to be careful because a Blast Zone could definitely wipe us out if we're not careful here. Let's see. Yeah, High Potion is kind of too strong for all of us. They'll lose their SOS status. They don't really want to do that. I don't think she's hasted. I kind of forgot. Okay, let's see how this one works. First of all, let's make sure we have lightning protection here. We do. Alright, haste Una back up. Yeah, so I was right, it is Penta Thundara. There you go. Excellent. Now that worked out pretty well. So really keeping him under pressure here with that Reflect. So I say the only thing here that can really cause us a big problem is Blast Zone if we're not ready for it. So I think to that end, I'm gonna, just in case, pop one of these. I'll need to get back down to SOS for some of them, but it'd be worth it. So this will be mine. Okay. I'm going to try a shell here. Focus again. Then I'm going to pray. And then I'm going to focus again. Logic being, if it does come up with a Blast Zone now, because it's done Dispel, CTB, Cure. And if it's Blast Zone next, then it might be rotating between those. So hopefully we survive Blast Zone. Even if we don't, I think we'll be okay. It won't be the end of the world, but we need to try and survive. Right, break next. So it was break. Only question is, does that remove his guard? If it does, that puts us in a little trouble. Yeah, I think it does. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. That's a bit of a problem. Now... maybe we can sacrifice Waka here. And just let him die. Or maybe we sacrifice... him. Yeah, he won't get hit though. It'll be Yuna that gets hit. Yeah, it's annoying. I mean, if I have it right, I think it should be hitting Waka. Yeah. So Multi is the one that uses break. This is the only thing I need to get right. Like, I've got most of it down, I think, but I need to figure out Blast Zone. I need to look very carefully at when Blast Zone is happening and who is perpetrating it. Alright, let's see. Lance. And it was on Riku. Interesting. Okay. So, Lance on Riku. Curious. Fine. I think Reflect is gone as well. Yeah. Need to remember to double check all of this stuff, otherwise you get in trouble pretty quick. So... obviously by reflecting in, one of the things I've made it so that a lot of characters can't do much damage. But hey. Thinking what else we can do. The only difference also this time is that when Total Annihilation comes, I don't exactly have a bunch of stored up overdrives or anything I can really do to kick ass. So that's going to be a problem as well. Alright, after this I'm gonna Reflect Auron again. Alright, C2B Cure. I haven't seen Blast Zone for a while. That's what's making it a little bit difficult to track. It's not the most frequent move of all time. Right. So I'm gonna go back on the attack now. Nice. 61,000. Okay. Yeah, the turns are synced up, which I don't like. Nah, Prey would be too strong. She does have a use. Again, I keep forgetting that this is a thing. Right, let's keep going here. Oh shit. Yeah, that can't be reflected. Synchronize annihilation mode. Yeah. So the question is, can we break the sync or not? If we can't, that's obviously going to be major trouble. So we can potentially desync like this. Let's see. Ah, but no, you can't hit. Now, is multi immune to delay or not? It doesn't matter which one at this stage, as long as we get rid of one of them. But first, before all that... no. So I'm going to try that still. Let's see if we can desync. I think we just did. Now... get rid of that mighty guard. Now, of course, I've generally lost track of where we're at in terms of the moves. Right, we have a reflect from him. Okay, so the next elemental is water, in case that's somehow relevant. If it's not, then... oh well. So we're going to set reflect back up on Flux here, and we'll see what happens. This is where the fight could completely break down. It's been quite a while already. I've put in a good effort. I think, again, overdrive modes, if I had the right ones, if I had a few overdrives to work with here, I could have given myself a better chance, but... we'll see how long we can survive. Oh, he immediately came in with that? I thought if we synced up we could manage it, but... wow. I mean, technically Auron tanked it, but... and then comes in with cross cleave. That's nasty. $2,300. Woohoo! So there we go. We got just under halfway on my first serious attempt. Honestly, this is more the speed that I would have expected Flux to be. Now, the reflect was certainly interesting, but I just wasn't sure what to do after we got to the annihilation phase. So I do definitely have some more ideas now. So I'm going to try to go back in and see what I can do second time round. Alright, here we go again. This time, let's see. Basically, I think I've thrown away a few attempts just trying to set up the first half of the fight for the second. That tends to be how I fight. And, because obviously everything kind of goes a bit out of control. And it seems very, very difficult to try and tank anything because you lose your protect and your shell. And, yeah, when that happens, both healing in between the annihilation and the cross cleave, and getting any buffs back up, it all just seems like it can't really work properly, so I feel like you really need to do that. Like, do the work in the first half, and then again, just try to unload in the second, and then try to hang on. But we'll see. And yeah, really got to keep track of these turns as well. At this stage, I've basically mapped out the turns. I've had enough attempts to do that. It's one of the first fights, basically, of the whole thing, where I've gone the whole 9 yards here, and I've tried to map everything. And try to keep track of every single turn. And I think at least I have that part of it down. But you have to stay focused on it because you've got two different bosses attacking you and they're not in sync. And because they're not in sync, like Morty could be like completely somewhere different on his pattern than Seymour. And if you're not paying attention, then all it takes is one slip and everything goes to shit. So let's see if we can keep up here. Yeah, basically there's no point slowing here, because even if I slow, it's going to come in with CTB healing, and it's going to heal. So like, it's going to get rid of the slow. So there's kind of no point here. So for that reason, I'm probably... Actually, no. I can, because Auron is under zombie, so I think this should hit Auron. So I think I can do this. So Auron will take a huge CTB hit here, but it won't matter as much because he's mostly there to guard for now. And then we can... let's get that reflect on there. And I think for Auron to potentially charge his overdrive a little more, let's just... Okay. Reflect, slow. Let's just try and bounce a bio on there anyway. Let's see what happens. Actually, no, he's not ready, is he? Alright, let's see what happens from here. In comes Blast Zone. This move, if you're like close to max HP, is nice because it just brings you down to the SOS that you need to survive the Penta stuff. Break. Titus. Yeah, before Yuna got hasted up is pretty bad. Okay. Let's try and speed back up. Yeah, there's going to be a CTB cure move coming up again next, but for now we're good. Yeah, there's no reflect on Auron yet, so I will take this opportunity to just do that, I think. Yeah, we've got a little more time. That's perfect. So now we guard. And then it should be another lance coming up. Boom. Okay. So now this is basically the perfect part of the fight where you just get a huge amount of turns to really do what you need to do. Let's just get this out of the way. Yeah, you know Seymour, you know how he is. He just keeps coming back. I've killed him already in this mod, but he just wants some more. Alright, so I think let's start by trying to get 5 times cheer on everyone maybe here. So there's that dispel. And so we don't forget, just put it right back on. We'll get the poison and stuff working soon as well. Let's cheer again. Just less healing needed for Auron as well. So we'll do... one of these numbers. Now from here, there's going to be one more lance, right? Heal him up. Make use of that alchemy. Guard. Oh. Yeah, I misjudged. But Comrade Overdrive, that's kind of what it was for. So it still kind of worked. Not exactly how I intended it, but I kind of jumped ahead a little bit. You really do have to keep track, man. In any case, But that's the move. Like, that's where you're basically going to get your overdrives from. I completely executed it wrong. And I got away with it to some extent. I mean, I did have SOS Null Frost, so I wasn't going to get game over. I didn't get lucky in that sense, but execution-wise, it definitely wasn't what I was trying to do. But I'll take it. Okay. So how are we doing now? Reflect, slow, still there. Let's get Reflect back on Auron now, and now we can actually start to move. And all these overdrives are going to be ready for that final onslaught. That's what we're going to try and do. So kind of similar to how we beat him the first time, but we've got to get down there and see if it's possible. Still a lot of work to do before any of that. I already dodged a bullet once with that mistake. And you can't afford to make many in this one. Now, I have to pick the right time to do this because if you don't, then Dispel's going to happen and you're going to lose your chance. I'm going to bring Kimari in now so I don't forget to at the end of the fight. Is he quick enough? Yeah, he is. Okay. So I'm going to do this. So I believe this should be break. Basically making sure Auron doesn't get broken so he can properly come in. Whoops. And be able to guard here. So Kimari getting broken. Not the best thing there. But this is the phase of the fight where we can make a little bit of a comeback. Didn't get a chance to heal. That's annoying. Didn't get a chance to heal Auron there. Ah! That sucks. That was just an unlucky series of turns there. It really was. That's a bullshit series there. God damn it. Yeah, see, when that happens, he gets cured of his... No, he gets cured of his slow as well. And then you're all the way back where you started again. You can't, like, you can't let that slow go. You really can't. Okay, so I have switched over to voiceover now, because what happened in the next 2 or 3 hours was that basically I really wanted to knuckle down and get this fight won, because most of the difficulty of the fight was in the second half, and that meant that the attempts ended up taking a long time to get to. And I thought I need to speed this up, and I'm just going to focus on winning the fight, not commentating, not doing anything. I've spent enough time. Let's get the win, and then I'll be able to kind of commentate over with what happened. So that's basically the phase I've got to. And what I'm showing now was basically an example of one of my attempts where I spent a long time working it down to this sort of level. Then I started to really struggle because I was struggling to find a way to tank both Total Annihilation and Cross Cleave at the same time. So I called out an Aeon in the hopes that maybe it would help me. But the way it works with this situation is that Banish always comes first, and once your shield Aeon gets banished, then Cross Cleave will come afterwards. And if you look at the damage from Cross Cleave there, you can see that the damage is just immense. Even Lulu, who has a lot of defense, she can't withstand it unless she has the right preparation. So basically what I'm going to do is, from here on, this is going to be the winning attempt, and I'm going to show you guys how I eventually beat Seymour Flux round 2. So in total, I would say this took maybe 4 or 5 hours. I commentated for like the first hour, I think, hour and a half, and then when I really realized that this is going to be one of those, going to take a few more hours probably, I just cut the commentary and I was like, let's just knuckle down and get to business. So what you're going to see here is the winning attempt. Let's go. Now, the main thing was that I really felt like I needed overdrives for the second form, and to me that was pretty crucial. And the best way I eventually found was just to say, you know what, let's just use Comrade Overdrive, and especially when those Penta moves come in, we can really charge using those. Now, at this stage, even the start, the first few moves here, it's a little bit like chess. I'd kind of prepared a set of moves, and most of the time it would always work out exactly the same way. And so I could kind of get myself to this particular point in the fight every single time without fail. So I started to lock down the opening of the fight more and more as time went on. But it was always basically negotiating the transition over to the second phase, surviving some combination of total annihilation and cross cleave, because that was probably the main way in which Karifean wanted to make this fight more difficult. Now, when I was recording, as I say, I hadn't edited the first winning version of the fight, and so I forgot that Seymour had an HP bump in Mark II. So he has 20,000 HP more than before, and that's one of the main ways in which he's trying to stop people from being able to blast through the total annihilation phase, because that's basically what he referenced. He wanted people to at least face one total annihilation, so that you could kind of prove that you could get by without just purely spamming your overdrives and doing damage. And so in that sense, the Mark II I think was a great success, because I'm sure it can probably still be done if you really like absolutely nail it and get everything right tick for tick. Then you could probably still take him out before you see total annihilation. But in the attempts I had, I think the closest I had up until the one you're watching now was about, I think he had about 12,000, 15,000 left, and then I got killed by total annihilation. So this one was basically the first time I managed to survive like some combination of those events, and I still had enough in the tank to pull myself through. Now, I would say the main thing that really helped here was that at this stage I had truly mapped out everything that Seymour would do and everything that Multi would do. And I was literally just keeping a tab on every single time they took a move, and I was trying my best to stay focused and just see what they were doing. And as long as you know what move is coming next, obviously you have a far better chance of making it work. Now, the good thing here is that I didn't end up customizing anything for this fight. So there's nothing particularly fancy going on here. It's the same equipment that I had when I finished going up the mountain trail. And the one downside of this particular strategy that you're seeing here, where I have Auron reflected now, he is both using guard to protect against Lance of the Sticks, and he is also being used as someone to reflect spells off of. The only weakness of this strategy is the break move. If break happens and it hits Auron, the trouble is that the buffs being lost is one thing, but the other major issue is the fact that if he's like guarding, once he's unpetrified, then guard stops working. And so obviously if he stops being able to tank the Lancers, then we run into a lot of trouble, because you saw in one of the previous attempts, if you create a situation in which a character is zombified and you can't keep things under control, then the fight can swing very quickly, because Seymour is very slow, and that's obviously by design. But the way it goes wrong is that if you allow Multi to get a CTB cure in, then it just doesn't matter that Seymour's been slowed. He will instantly get the next turn. So it basically bumps whoever gets the CTB cure, they get bumped up to the top of the CTB, and that's basically how it all went wrong last time. So what you're seeing here is, in general, me doing my best to try to negotiate the different moves here, but especially when it's time for something like the penta moves, I'm trying my best to leave one person who isn't protected against those spells, and then that way whoever's left, they're going to get a massive overdrive boost here. So that's the general idea, and that basically kind of takes care of the first half of the fight. And the main way in which it goes wrong with this strategy is if Auron or somebody else ends up getting zombified and the CTB cure ends up coming back to Seymour and getting rid of his slow and bumping him up the CTB at the same time. So while reflected like this, everything is generally under control. So this is generally where you need to kind of watch out for the turns very carefully, see who has which status, and also obviously, as always, make sure that you're being careful with the reflex. Auron is back on guard here. And already you saw from that first penta, it wasn't perfectly executed because I couldn't get it out the way. But now it's definitely starting to look a little bit better. So there's break, hits Tidus. This is not the worst outcome here. And what I'm also doing, you'll notice this time around, Auron actually has his SOS regen armor. So obviously, whenever you have a zombie in a fight and you have regen related stuff, that's a very dangerous game to play. But I noticed that basically, because of how slow Seymour is and the fact that we can generally haste up our characters and get a fair few moves, it's pretty rare that Auron will take, like, he'll spend an extended amount of time in zombie, because if he does, then the fight completely goes pear-shaped anyway. So in general, I decided to take the risk and leave him with SOS regen, because that would save me a lot of time and resources having to heal him in the future. Once he has 5 times cheer, if you can also get something like protect on him, he just takes such little damage from the lance move that SOS regen will basically take care of all of his healing here. And so that's one of the main differences you would have seen from previous attempts as well here. So in general, also still trying my best to kind of build up positive buffs on as many characters as I can in a way that will not be removed. Blast Zone coming in here. Riku survives with 19 HP. In one of my early attempts, that was one of my biggest kind of doubt points as well, like whether Riku could survive a Blast Zone. And it is very tight, so you need to kind of use, I think, some more focuses to really kind of guarantee it, or use Shell. I think Shell reduces it, but if it doesn't, then you need focus. But those overdrives are coming up, so Blast Zone also does a nice job in terms of powering up overdrives as well. And you can see, like, Auron already, he's starting to come back up to 1000 HP, and that's already basically going to be enough for him to survive the lance once he's got enough cheers on him. So at this stage you can tell, like, if I'm playing this fight in ×2 for most of it, you can tell that I'm starting to get much more confident with the fight and I know what's coming next. That's definitely, I think, a sign of progress, the fact that I could do a lot of the fight in ×2 speed. But you can see there's still times where obviously I'm slowing down. I'm like, wait, is this the right move? And just making sure I try to go ahead in the right way. Soon we are going to get another set of elementals, so I need to kind of again prepare things. Now, thinking ahead, what I wanted to do once Seymour goes down into total annihilation territory is I want to definitely, pretty much definitely, get a Banishing Blade in with Auron, because I thought obviously one way in which I can survive against total annihilation and cross cleave is to have Seymour power / magic broken, and that would already make things way more likely in terms of survival. So basically, if I go into the total annihilation phase and Auron doesn't have an overdrive, I was thinking to myself, this is already, like, it might already be game over. It would make quite a big difference. Now, we do have Entrust with Tidus if needed, but you would have seen in my winning attempt against the first version, it's a pretty powerful overdrive to use against Seymour, because he does have the Brotherhood, which is pretty useful because of the elemental affinities that are on there. So again, the more overdrives I'm building up, the better. Like, it won't be enough to destroy him before total annihilation, but once the first one comes in and cross cleave comes in, like, I want to end the fight as soon as possible. And so that's what we're going to generally be continuing to work on here. So we get an extra opportunity to use Demi. Now this will always be countered with the Lance, but I know Auron has enough HP to survive it, including the auto regen, sorry, the SOS regen. It was very, like, cutting it close, but we made it work. And once again, Auron doesn't get hit with that, so that's nice. So if Auron, like, if the break hits Auron quite often, that can really throw a spanner in the works, but the times in which it's happened here, they've been pretty fortunate. So now, once again, we're getting closer to having a penta element. So now I'm like, who should I bring in for overdrive accumulation here? Because as we've seen so far, Lulu, for example, she can use something like Demi Fury, which can do a lot of damage in one go. Even Firaga Fury, honestly, if she gets enough of them off, they can do some decent damage too. So definitely some scope for some big damage here, but we have to get it right, and we have to also do all of this while making sure that we don't get killed by total annihilation. But you can see the poison also working really well here. Like, what I started to do against Mark II was obviously use the whole reflect situation a lot more, and if you're careful with your turns, you can definitely keep the reflect on almost all of the time. And obviously while reflect is on, Morty doesn't have a way to take the poison away, and the slow away really, from Seymour, and so it's incredibly effective. And so the reflect strategy has definitely worked really well for me. It took a little bit more time to kind of master and bring it down, and one of the kind of downsides of it is that Auron spends a lot of time on the front line. But here you can see, watch Waka here, there you go. So I deliberately brought out Waka with the intention of having him get hit, and now we have some more full overdrives. So Tidus is already pretty close to, I think a blast zone or something like that should be enough to basically get him there. And Waka got his turn immediately there, that was really beautiful. So obviously the CTB Cure plus Reflect can be incredibly useful as well, because if there's someone slow like Auron, it can bring their turn up immediately, and so sometimes at least that was the way in which I could get him to guard. So one of the most dangerous things of this whole strat is anytime a lance is coming in, if Auron is not there to guard it, it's a real pain. And that can sometimes happen because Auron is so slow, and because he can get hit with break. But sometimes, even if he's really slow, he gets hit with a CTB Cure, and it brings his turn right up to the top, and you are able to get that guard in where ordinarily you wouldn't have been fast enough. So it can make a bit of a difference as well. There's definitely a few times where I had a really nice CTB Cure bumping someone up to the top of the CTB who kind of had no business being there normally. So now I switch to the double overdrive here. I'm really trying to start farming a bit of overdrive. Like, we won't be hit by the Penta Elemental for quite some time. So now is an opportunity for us to go on the attack here. We know Blast Zone's coming next, in terms of like a big move that will hit everybody. So we have to be careful. But again, I let Auron get zombified deliberately, but pretty much immediately I can get rid of it. And so as long as I know that that's possible, I don't mind leaving Auron in SOS regen and having him take an extra hit. So here we go, 62,000, we're getting close to the danger zone here. But even in ×2 speed, you can see how long it's kind of taken me to get down to this level and start to get prepared. And so that's why eventually I just gave up the commentary, because it's just, for me, this is where the fight actually begins. And getting it right up until here was already taking quite a lot of time. Okay. Again, Auron close to dying there, but we managed to keep him above. And he'll slowly start to regain his HP. Now down to 59,000, but it went down with poison damage. Now, from what I've experienced here, when this happens, I think it takes a Dispel for Seymour to actually go into the phase, because he's got less than half HP, but it hasn't triggered yet for him to go into total annihilation mode. And I think at this stage I was also a little bit like, I wasn't sure what would make him do it. I knew that you couldn't poison damage him the whole way through, but I wasn't completely sure. And so I was thinking, should I do it? Or should I wait for Seymour? But you can see, I'm getting Morty ready as well, just so that I can take that extra 6,000 whenever I need it. That was a deliberate strategy there, basically, because obviously when you need to do as much damage as quickly as possible, grabbing an extra 6,000 off Morty is going to be a big deal here. So this should be an overdrive. There you go. Yuna's almost there. I really want an Aeon still, even though they get banished. Aeons can be very powerful, and you'll see why a little bit later. But this is looking better now. I have 3 full overdrives, and Yuna is almost there, and Tidus is pretty close too. So I'm still not quite ready to take on the total annihilation phase yet. I feel like I still need a little more. So this is the stage where I'm going to really try my best to prep. Now again, Auron didn't get hit by the break, so that was a little bit lucky. And so we can get Tidus back up to speed pretty much immediately here, so we're good to go. And so now things started to get a little bit more tense, because this was the first time I managed to make it to this particular part of the fight with this powerful a setup, with like this many of my characters ready with overdrives, and with a potential chance to really do some serious damage, and to potentially survive total annihilation as well. Because it's got to be both. Now, Karifean told us at the start, total annihilation will remove Protect and Shell on the first hit. So the idea here, this was something that obviously I'd kind of experienced at this point, and I'd seen, and so that was also part of the reason why I wanted someone like Riku or even Kimahri to have a extra overdrive. So the idea here was to still try and tank total annihilation, because I knew I could do it if Seymour had brakes on him, so I could definitely survive it. But surviving both total annihilation and cross cleave in very, very short succession was something that I basically knew that I pretty much couldn't do. The way that I could do it, though, was that if I managed to desync them, which was obviously key to this fight, then in the turn that I had in between, I could bring in someone like Riku and use a move like Super Mighty G, where I could get those buffs back that total annihilation had taken away. And that was one of the keys for me in being able to survive cross cleave as well. So these were all things I was thinking ahead for, and if Riku didn't have an overdrive, or if Kimahri didn't have an overdrive, if you only have, say, 1 or 2 turns before, like in between total annihilation and cross cleave, then you don't have enough time to get buffs back on everybody. And so either one person or maybe multiple people are going to die, because there's just not enough time to heal from the damage you took from total annihilation, get buffs back on because your protects have been removed from that move, and to kind of heal people and prep and all of that stuff. So that's why Riku was my kind of fail-safe for that. Either I was going to try to summon a shield for cross cleave if I really needed to, if I was desperate, or I was going to bring in Riku to use something like Super Mighty G. So this was all kind of stuff at this stage that was going through my head while I was getting closer and closer to hell breaking loose. But I'm just trying my best to make sure I'm ready for it here. I switched to this weapon with Auron just in case, like I can get an extra hit in or something. I think that was my logic there, or I was just moving him up the CTB. I think that's all it was. Yeah, so I think at this stage, basically I'm going to commit to total annihilation phase. So this is where I'm bringing Auron up to speed, because I'm thinking I probably won't have to deal with the Lance now. I need to get people ready to survive total annihilation, and then hopefully have some turns in between that one and cross cleave. But these are some preparations here. I'm just really like trying to be as careful as I can before I pull the trigger and bring down Flux's HP even further. Yeah, I spent quite a lot of time here, unable to decide exactly what to commit to. But I'm just I'm stalling here just to see what's going to happen. So here comes a Dispel, and there comes Mighty Guard. So that's what triggered off this whole phase here. And so now, this is the amount of turns. Look at how many turns we have here. So this was my sort of effort to time it as best as I can to get as many turns as possible before total annihilation happens. So here it's kind of a bit of a stick or twist situation. Do we try to do as much damage as we can, or do we try to tank? Now I started with Banishing Blade. There we go. This was going to be big because these were breaks that I really need to put on, and I did the Dispel first. So I made sure obviously I dispelled the positive buffs, then I could put the negative buffs back on and not have to worry about it. So 47,000 now. It's time to commit to something. I don't know what I decided here. Surely Demi Fury. Or did I go for Fire Argo? Interesting. I recorded this like a week or so ago, and I've done a bit more progress on the mod since then, so I don't, like, move for move, I don't remember what I did. But now I'm looking to kind of desync them as quickly as possible here. And you can see now, because I'm generally pretty quick, we've managed to create a two gap here, basically. So this gives me time to hopefully tank Total Annihilation, and also bring in someone like Riku to be able to use a Super Mighty G. So that was generally the plan, because obviously in using delay attack with Tidus, he had to give up some of his own CTB. There's a CTB penalty in place for doing that. At this stage, I wasn't really sure if once all of this like Total Annihilation, Cross Cleave and all that was done, is it going to start using the same moves again, like CTB Cure and all of this kind of stuff. So I was a little bit unsure if I should just put Reflect back on. So again, it's a little bit of like stick or twist. There's multiple ways in which you can go here, and I was kind of struggling for which direction would be best. Let's see what I end up going for, because there's not a lot of turns left before Total Annihilation hits. Just trying to see if Riku can steal anything more, but she can't. So that was just my little effort to see that. So now we'll see if I can survive. We've got the brakes on. And well, leaving Tidus out there was also strategic, because I was hoping that from the damage he would also get a full overdrive by the end of it. But really wasn't sure who to tank this with. Lulu's always a good candidate, but especially in this fight she is a bit slower, but since she also gets a turn here, I was thinking her magic defense is just so high that she might be a good choice. So I slow things down here, because this was the first time I felt like I had a chance. Here it comes. Magic broken here. Very reasonable damage. Might be a little much for Tidus here. We'll see. No, we're good. And look at that. So it makes the damage look relatively trivial, but the problem here again, like I said, if you didn't split their turns up, Multi would have come in with Cross Cleave and done a huge amount of damage, because you don't have Protect anymore. Even with Power Break, it does pretty good damage. And if you, let's say, only have one move, you need to heal up at the same time. So there's a lot of work to do here. But my logic here was that I can get something like a Super Mighty G in. So let's try and do that, and then I can heal up again. So basically the chances of dying from Cross Cleave should be far lower. And again, at this stage, I have not survived beyond Cross Cleave before. And so that's why I was also like not sure what was going to happen if I did survive it. Like, does it immediately just go back into Total Annihilation and Cross Cleave again? Are there no other moves from this point, or does it still rotate in, like Multi for example, does it still rotate in some of its other moves like Dispel or CTB Cure or one of those? So I wasn't sure which of those was going to happen. But you can see here, I still haven't really deployed my overdrives. I've still got Lulu's and Tidus's to go here. Seymour is still poisoned, so he's going to keep taking damage. And so if I can just survive this, I have a chance. So let's have a look here. I commit to the Super Mighty G. This was my way of trying to stay alive against Cross Cleave. Let's have a look here. Now, just to make doubly sure, I thought now might be a good time to summon. So not only do I have the buffs, but now, because Total Annihilation has already happened, and I've already tanked one of them, I thought this might be a good time. So I'm going to obviously use my overdrive. Going to do quad 9 damage plus another 6,000 from Multi, so that's another 16,000 chunk gone. And then the hope is that Banish is going to happen, but I'm going to be able to deal with the consequences this time around. So you'll see what happens here. There we go, that's the big damage. More absorption. 16,000 gone. Death awaits you. Banish comes in. But what about cross cleave? What about cross cleave? Another 3,600. The answer is there is no cross cleave, because in that situation, basically, Morty's turn is used up with Banish instead. So this was absolutely perfect. 18,000 left to go. Here, I should have just used Blitz Ace. I'm not sure if I did. But because basically 18,000 is already quite a low start point, I wasn't sure if I should be using Demi or not. It feels like it's very effective if it has like 70, 80, 90,000 HP. But at 18,000, is it worth it? I mean, I know it also has Mental Break, so it felt like maybe it's a better idea to do that instead. I'm not sure. So here, I'm gonna potentially, let's see what I end up going for here. I'm a little bit torn. I do have some turns to work with, but not like a crazy amount. Especially if I start trying to use overdrives or delay attacks or anything like that. So I'm checking which buffs I have in place, so that if I can't get this done and cross cleave still comes next, because at this stage, like, I know Banish happened, but does that skip the rotation? Is it still cross cleave next? Is it total annihilation next again? This is the kind of part where I was a little bit hazy, and so I was like, there's an air of unpredictability, for me at least, about what Seymour's going to do next. And so I really wanted to finish it off in these 3 turns if I could, so I don't have to think about what's next. But Morty obviously having 6,000 was a little bit of a problem here, but I decided to, I think, go for Fire Arga Fury if I remember correctly. Yeah, this was me relying on Mental Break and the fact that I can get more rotations in with Fire Arga, but this was really bad. I don't know why I only ended up with 5 there. I was really sad when this happened. I thought I flunked it. It's weird, I use the same technique every time, but thankfully enough of them hit Morty that it still brought it down to size. So 5 Fire Argas was still enough here. And now I have a chance to finish it off. I should have used Blitz Ace here to finish the job. But basically, I think I was thinking here that I can probably do quad 9 damage to Morty. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. It was Seymour with the breaks, not Morty, and Seymour's the one that takes the greater elemental damage and stuff as well. But whatever the case may be, we managed to get it done. So Seymour Mark II was way harder, for me at least, than Mark 1 was, but I still managed to get through. So in terms of like the key stuff that I did, I would say 1 was using Reflect and trying to make sure I maintained Reflect at all times through the fight. And that stops Morty from getting rid of the poison, stops him from getting rid of the slow, and stops CTB Cure from being detrimental in the fight. So that's one of the main things, using Reflect. The second thing was making sure that Auron did not have Zombie and Reflect on at the same time, because if that happens, Morty will try to use CTB Cure on Auron and bounce it back to Seymour, and that will immediately bring up Seymour's turn and also remove the slow, and that's basically what cost me in my like real-time commentary. So I try my best to avoid that. 3, I started to use Comrade Overdrive mode and use the Penta Elementals to really power up some overdrive, so like leave one person who wasn't protected, and because you can use slow on Seymour and keep him in slow, and you can obviously haste up your own characters, I had enough CTB kind of space to be able to pull that off, to basically deliberately let a character die and then revive them and then kind of get back to how it was. Now you can see this reward here. This was a pretty cool reward. You get a Sense Preserver weapon. This is great because Sense Preserver protects you from silence and from darkness, and so to have that on a mage is pretty nice. Ideally, of course, if you had a character that kind of did a bit of both, so like Tidus would be ideal here, but I wasn't going to drop farm for a weapon at this stage. I thought let's just leave it. I dabbled in it a little bit with Kimari's fight, but I decided not to do it. I didn't want to make like a common practice of it unless there was something like so insanely good that I felt like I absolutely had to have it. and I wanted to kind of redo the fight just so I could have it. But for this one at least, I kind of let it go, and I kept this one for the run ahead. So this will be like the save that I continue from in the run, because I got a pretty decent drop and I actually customized less than I did for my first Seymour Flux win, which was an added benefit as well. So yeah, to continue to summarize, making sure that I had as much time as possible on the CTB once the transition came to Total Annihilation, because you saw once the Dispel happened and the Mighty Guard happened, I had like a massive window of turns to really make sure I was ready for what was to come. That way I could deliver the Dispel, I could get the Banishing Blade in to inflict all of the breaks, which is obviously going to be one of the best ways to save me from Total Annihilation, and also Cross Cleave if it came, and also obviously for my overdrives to do a little bit more as well. So that was another ingredient, and obviously that includes all of the Banishing Blade, applying the breaks, all of that stuff. But one of the final things that was really helpful was to be able to bring in Riku for a Super Mighty G. So let's say in that scenario where I summoned Bahamut, let's say unit didn't have the full overdrive, you could bring in Riku there with the Super Mighty G and then toss another Mega Potion. You'll be able to survive Cross Cleave much more effectively because you'd have those buffs back up. And you'd have the Power Break, and if you've been prepping, you should probably have some cheers as well. So it was kind of like I had a double failsafe. I had the Super Mighty G, or I had the Summon. And the Summon worked beautifully because basically they ended up throwing their turn away with banishing Bahamut instead of hitting us with Cross Cleave, and the overdrives did the rest of the work. So yeah, as I say, it did take me 4 or 5 hours. I would say in total maybe like 10 attempts, 10 to 12 attempts, because as I say, I did need to restart a bunch of times when something went wrong, and I think at least 3 or 4 times I got to the Total Annihilation phase and I screwed something up and I just died basically. I didn't have the right preparation for it. But this was the first time I truly did, and I managed to pull through. So I think definitely this is much more what it really should have been, if you're asking me. Seymour Flux is an iconic fight, it's a grandstand fight. It's one that even in the vanilla game, people have memories of it, people have been stuck on Seymour Flux for a long time. And if you're making a Masters mod designed to challenge like veterans of the game, then I think you've got to make Seymour Flux something tough. Of course, there'll still be some people who just get through it first time. There always will be, but I think in terms of his vision and how he wanted to do it, I think the main thing was to not allow people to completely overdrive spam and skip like the last 50% of the fight. And in this one, I kind of still basically did my best to kind of do that, but you definitely can't completely avoid it. I still had to make sure I nailed the Banishing Blade. I had my Super Mighty G in reserve, I had my Aeon Summon in reserve, and I really kind of had to defensively also pull out a bunch of stops to be able to make sure that I didn't get completely KO'd when the Total Annihilation phase begun. So I think this is in a good place now. Hopefully Karifean enjoyed how the fight played out, and he's happy with it too. But as I say, this is a one-off special episode. I won't be making another one like this because, as I say, it was literally 4 or 5 hours of recording. I don't want to give you guys literally a month's worth of the same boss battle being attempted over and over again. Then it also means that there's multiple hours worth of time that I've spent on the playlist. So as a full-time content creator, if you're spending a huge amount of time on a boss and you only get to show a fraction of it, that's not a good return. And so for this one, I definitely made an exception because I definitely owe Karifean that and much more, and it's totally fine. And I enjoyed myself, and it was nice to finally get the win against Seymour Flux Mark II. And he has assured me that kind of from here on, there isn't going to be a situation where like every other boss that I fight, oh, can you do it again, but I'm going to change it and do this version, that version. It's going to be back to kind of how it was, and it's very unlikely, hopefully, based on what Karifean has said as well, that we'll have any situations where I'm going to show you like Mark II, Mark III versions of bosses or anything like that. So looking forward to showing you guys more. There's some definitely very, very cool bosses to come. And as of recording this voiceover, I haven't finished the game yet, but I'm starting to edge closer and closer, and I hope you guys continue to enjoy the episodes. Thank you for watching this one, appreciate it. I know it's the same boss battle back to back 2 weeks in a row, but since this was a different version and a harder fight, I'm hoping you guys enjoy seeing this one as well. So I'll see you next week. Thank you for all the support, and thank you to Karifean for taking the time to make some tweaks and make some adjustments and make this fight even better. Take care guys, I'll see you soon.